Ahoy, mateys, and welcome to Jester Bros Cartoon Travelers, where we explore the vast and beautiful worlds of animation for the perfect place to call home.
Oh,
Was that spooky enough?
what the content wasn't very spooky. We're trying to find a lovely and non-threatening place to find to live. Ooh. But yes,
All
I
right.
thought it came out great still.
Oh, excellent. Well, we're your captains, Alec and Lou, and we're here for a spooky old adventure.
Yeah, we're gonna go live in nowhere and deal with aliens and eldritch horror.
Yeah, what? How can somebody live in nowhere, especially in an experiment like ours, where we are intentionally trying to live somewhere, we end up nowhere instead?
Oh, wow, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, this will be a paradoxical episode. We're talking about Courage the Cowardly Dog today.
Yes, nowhere, well, if you don't know, is actually the name of the place that Courage the dog lives, and
Yes.
all of the scary happenings. I won't even say spooky.
Yeah, no, straight up scary, 100%.
Like straight up scary happenings within this little shack of a house.
Oh yeah, I have so many quotes that are just creeping in the horrors of my back consciousness. Return the slab. I've been naughty.
You know,
You're not perfect. Classic
you-
horrific lines from this show.
you've got them all. And the
I do.
last time we did one of our proper episodes, we talked about Coraline, and kind of the lens of that discussion
Yes.
was the type of children's horror genre, right? And
Great
we sort of talked-
follow up.
yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, it was a great discussion. We recommend checking that out if you didn't.
Yes.
Um,
That was one
so
of my
we'll
favorites
prob-
we did.
We won't spend as much time on that topic today because we already like talked it to death during Coraline. However, I do think that Courage the Cowardly Dog was certainly an entry to horror
Yes.
for a lot of kids of our generation.
Yeah, I mean, if we're we're talking off the heels of children's horror, I mean, this is it. You know what I mean? This almost borders on like just normal horror at times, like adult horror. There is some creepy, grisly, disturbing stuff in this show, and I loved every second of it. I loved every second of it. It's so creepy and grisly. I love it.
As an adult, I like it a lot more because I can handle it.
Yes.
But as a kid, this pushed my envelope. I wouldn't watch it,
Oh,
to be
yeah.
honest. It was too scary.
Oh yeah, I was just on a call with my friend before we were recording, and he was like, I was telling him we were gonna do this. He's like, dude, that show actually scared the living daylights out of me as a kid. I could not watch them, and he pulled up a couple scenes that like this. There's like the face in the basement, the realistic human face moon thing, and yeah, there's a lot, man. There's a lot.
I
We
had
could
the
go
name
on.
of that. Yeah, The Spirit of the Harvest Moon.
Yep.
We'll see. I bet that you're gonna remember more of that stuff than me because again, I actively avoided this. So most of the stuff that I have seen has been as an adult looking back as a fan of animation and being like, "Whoa, this
Yeah.
is pretty messed up."
Oh, and I actually, as a fan of animation, I can't wait to talk about it because Courage. A lot of we all think of Courage as just a horror show, but they actually were very innovative in animation in a lot of ways, and we'll get into that too.
Definitely. Well, why don't you get right into it before we even get to the world?
Hell
yeah,
yeah.
talk to me. Talk to me about Courage as like an animated show because I do
Yeah.
think that's fascinating.
So one of the things, so at this time in animation history, CGI was definitely starting to get experimented with, right?
Mhm.
But in TV specifically, it wasn't used very often because the technology wasn't refined enough to make it look very good. For Courage, you might know, especially if you saw like Toy Story 1, sometimes you get some uncanny valley, even with good CGI. Even the best at the time sometimes got pretty uncanny valley. And for Courage, well, that was just perfect. We didn't need it to be polished. We wanted it to be uncanny. We wanted it to be creepy. So, like the Return the Slab episode I mentioned earlier, that was actually a really pivotal moment in animation because we started seeing a 2D CG mix that was really creepy, and it was used for the horror aesthetic. But it was, it was something where the animation industry kind of got to get their feet wet with that technology and experiment with how to use it practically, whether it's for whatever genre. You know what I mean? So yeah, we had Return the Slab. There was the really creepy fetus-looking character, the one that I'm sure you don't even know what I'm talking about. It looks
I
horrific.
do.
Oh
I
yeah,
do. It's
yeah.
horrific.
The you're not perfect. It was only a couple seconds of frame in that episode, but it's like, Courage is having this and that whole episode is just Courage going through kind of hallucinations and self-doubt and staying up and having night terrors and stuff like that. And there are, like the king of the Harvest Moon, or the Spirit of the Harvest Moon, you said?
Yeah, Spirit of the Harvest Moon.
Yeah, that was mixing real animation, or like real life footage with animation as well. So if you're a fan of something like Gumball, The Amazing Adventures of Gumball, could not have run unless Courage had walked and started doing weird stuff like that first.
Think about the logistics of this. Okay, we're about to pretend like we're moving into this world. You and we see a 4-dimensional being in our 3-dimensional world. Think about that.
Yeah, yeah.
Just like the absolute fear of that. And now from Courage's perspective, being a 2-dimensional creature,
Yeah.
seeing a 3-dimensional thing he
Absolutely.
couldn't even wrap his mind around
Yeah,
it.
yeah, it's
If he were like us.
incomprehensible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. And it's scary for us because it's Uncanny Valley and creepy, and there's the plot line with the slab guy. There's the whole famine stuff that's going on because Eustace was being greedy and wanted to steal that ancient slab.
Lots of commentary too.
Lots of commentary, a lot of good commentary in this. Muriel and Eustace are kind of not talked about as much because they're sort of like your everyman that's getting attacked, and Courage is the one who's really our protagonist and we focus on. But both of those characters are great for exploring. I'll try to say like some of the simplistic mindset of a lot of middle America at the time, and how they confront a lot of wild stuff, and how they're almost weirdly unfazed by it because they're more concerned with their own lives. Now, I want to mention, heard the theory that none of this stuff is actually paranormal at all, and this is all actually just the lens of Courage as a dog, and they're kind of making jokes about what dogs feel and see when, like, a stranger knocks on the door, and how they protect their family over these unknown threats, and to them it looks like this crazy stuff, but in reality it's actually very chill. I don't know if that's actually the artist's intent, but I think philosophically it's a very interesting idea for the premise of the show.
Yeah, if I was like creating an animated movie and I was like a producer or a director and I saw that somebody worked on Courage the Cowardly Dog, I'd be like, interesting.
Oh yeah.
I want to interview them.
Yeah.
Like I want to know what
yeah.
that experience was like and
Oh,
what
yeah.
they could bring to the table because it's very unique.
Yeah.
Do you want to take off to the world? Because I have something that I want to get right into.
Let's do it. I'm really excited. So some people might think, no way, not me. Let's get into it.
Ooh, there we go. First thing that I want to talk about, the tone of the world. So my issue with a lot of horror stuff is not just that I don't like being scared. I
Yeah.
also find a lot of it very drab.
Yes.
A lot of like, I don't feel good.
Dark colors.
Watching. Yeah, dark colors. Listen, and it's not even just horror movies. Look at the way that the DC universe makes their films.
Yeah.
I'm always just feeling like, gosh, nothing is popping here
Yeah,
for me.
yeah, totally.
And something that I do think is interesting about Courage, I don't see these colors as being muted and drab.
No, you're right. You're right.
Which it almost feels like they are or that they should be.
Yeah.
But they're different. Like they're extremely unique. You see the color tone, the color palette, if you will.
Yeah.
And you know that is Courage the Cowardly Dog. It's not drab. It's a little bit off. It's a little bit, what is this?
Yeah,
You know,
a lot of
unconventional.
a lot of canted angles too. In
Twilight
their
Zone-ish.
shots. Yeah, a lot of like long angle shots, a lot of distorted fisheye stuff going on. And you got to also know in an animation, when I say fisheye and canted, These are terms for camera angles. A canted lens is a diagonal upshot on something. A fisheye is describing the kind of lens you use to get that effect. This is all animation, so they're not actually using a camera. They are simulating and drawing all of those things, which is very impressive.
Yeah, no doubt. So like we're about to really get into like the logistics of living in a place like this.
Yeah.
But um
My God, your
it
color.
does have a character to it.
Your sunshine is gone. I had. That's fine.
All my lighting is trying to be messed up. In the
Yeah.
spirit of Courage the Cowardly Dog,
Yes, there
uh,
it is. There it is.
just feels a little bit different, a little bit strange.
I love it.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like I should feel like this is drab. That's what is interesting to me about it.
So I have a take on that because the way that they do it is really smart. So think about the house in the desert that you see, right?
Yeah.
That shot. There's no color in that. It's brown, it's yellow, it's normal, right? And where they give you color are in Courage and in the monsters that you see and in the aliens and in all that stuff. And it's because it creates this vibrant contrast to the normal droll life, and it makes it that much more exciting and that much more crazy to see because it pops so much more. And so, you know, a lot of time it's good for horror to create more of a moody vibe, but this does combat it with that popping element, and it does it so effectively so that it makes it stand out even more against the bland background.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I don't know. Obviously this is going to be a long shot, I think, in terms of somewhere that actively I want to go and live in this place. You don't
Ah.
necessarily feel that way.
No. Well, continue your thought. I'll get to mine.
But I wanted to note that in terms of darkness, there's something that is beckoning to me about this place just a little bit. And I can't quite describe the reason.
Yes.
But I do think perhaps it's what you describe. It is this just splash of character
Yeah.
on top of something that should be dull but isn't.
Yes. I've been reading a lot of H.P. Lovecraft lately. I've gotten into a huge cosmic horror kick. And it's that kind of like, oh my God, this is so creepy and unnerving, but like I'm so curious about all of it. It's so fascinating. And the thing is, I would not want to be Courage, Muriel, or Eustace, but I would love to investigate all of this crazy stuff going on. I mean, you know, we look at Gravity Falls, and the reason why Gravity Falls is so interesting is because it's been identified as a hub for all of this paranormal activity, all this metaphysical stuff going on. I mean, let's pretend Gravity Falls is in the same world as Courage for a second. Nowhere is also a hub just like Gravity Falls for this kind of stuff.
Okay. This is the perfect time for me to introduce what I was going to talk about. I was thinking about it later, but this is perfect.
Yes.
Have you seen the Courage Scooby-Doo crossover?
Yes, I have.
You have.
I
Okay.
have.
I'm not going to spoil it for people because I don't think enough people have seen this.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I really could not recommend it enough.
It's
But
newer. It's newer, everybody. It
It's
came out
newer.
like a couple years ago.
What you need to know is it is the true finale for Courage the Cowardly Dog, and that is why I will not spoil it. It ties together the mystery of all of the episodes that have come before it in a nice, satisfying bow. Some of the writing and dialogue is like a little bit iffy, but it does resolve the story, and it does feel like a true piece of the Courage the Cowardly Dog universe that I don't believe you will have the full picture of what this world is, even what the show is,
Yep.
without watching that to resolve it. So I really implore people, check it out.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, weirdly
reason
came out weirdly came out at a time where there were like a couple different movies made from old shows from that time. I think Invader Zim had one too. There was another one or two from that time period as well.
Hey Arnold had a
Hey
true
Arnold.
finale come out.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were trying, and that was Nickelodeon versus Cartoon Network, so different studios. But
Yeah.
there was a similar nostalgic idea of,
Yeah.
you know, let's release a little bit more from this.
Yeah.
And listen, I loved this thing. I thought it was great. But the reason I bring it up is because Scooby and the gang actually do get to investigate what is going on with this place of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it is, for me, the most excited I had been about the location itself since watching the show.
You know, it's so funny. I had actually completely forgot about that for some reason. And that is exactly what I'm talking about. Being with Scooby and the gang, which, I mean, you can even, if you wanted, you can even in this thought experiment insert yourself in that very scenario. We
You
could
could.
be in the Mystery Gang, or the Mystery Inc., I should say. I don't remember
You
if it's
already went through a
canonically called that.
phase where you were in the Scooby universe as an investigator, a literal paranormal investigator. So
Yes, exactly. So, and you know, but when we talked about that, Crystal Cove itself maybe didn't seem like the most exciting place. When we were talking about Mystery Inc. This is a lot more exciting to research for me. Because think about it. In Mystery Inc., there's almost nothing real paranormal going on. Almost.
okay,
Here, everything's real. You get aliens, you get monsters, you get government conspiracies, you get ghosts, you get zombies, you get like every single it's just such a love letter to the horror genre in general. You know, there's the weird Egyptian like stuff going on with that whole Curse of Ramses, and like,
King Ramses, yeah.
you know, it's so just dripping with this imagery, and I'm so happy to talk about it for the Halloween season for that same reason too, and that's why I love revisiting it all the time. You know, it seems like a place where if you were a paranormal investigator of any cartoon, maybe minus Scooby-Doo, which clearly has access to this canon as well, so, you know, you get that in addition in a sense. There's almost no more paranormal place you could be. You know what I mean? Even the Secret Saturdays didn't get this much, if anybody even knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, well, and the Secret Saturdays, that would be a fun one to visit.
Yeah,
If-
I know, right?
I don't know if there's like an audience for it, but that was
Sure.
all about just cryptids being in the real world.
Yeah.
But those were also spread out. It required a lot of travel. You had to know where you were going.
Yep.
This is so locked into one location. I actually think Gravity Falls is an interesting comparison.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
totally.
Because there are a lot of creatures that are kind of isolated into this one place where a lot of mysterious stuff is going on. Not as much nightmare fuel in Gravity Falls, though there is certainly some.
Yeah.
Uh, I think that is a more digestible version to me because this
Yeah.
is just like so scary.
Totally. Well, okay,
And
so
I understand why you would prefer this potentially, but I think I would lean Gravity Falls.
yeah, well,
Between
when
those
we
two.
talked about Gravity Falls, my hang up was that I didn't like the small town vibe that they had going on. I didn't think that I would relate to the people. But out here, there's no people. This is a very unique experience. I'm assuming I'm not really going to run into anyone almost ever. And if I do, there's a good chance they're involved in some of the metaphysical stuff going on.
Sure. I mean, you could be on the outskirts by like a nearby busier town. Because
Yeah, we do
it
see
is
those.
we know that those exist, and this specific house is just very isolated.
Yeah.
But I think it would be more like being in Roswell, New Mexico, or some like very
Exactly.
tiny town where yes, there are people, but you would still feel like you're in a small town. But you're right, there is certainly the option to basically just have pure isolation.
Yeah. Well, and for me, that's the fun part about this single thought experiment is like, I'm assuming that, you know, I think it's pretty obvious. If I was going to go into this, I would do it as an enthusiast in this kind of thing, and I would want to study it and interact with it very intentionally. And under that circumstance, I'd probably set up like a headquarters, like a radio tower or something along those lines, or, you know, one of those like classic big UFO, you know, satellite, you know, monitoring stations or something like that. And I would really just go full isolated lunatic, lose my mind, completely abandon sanity, and get lost in this stuff. And there's something about that that's almost more alluring to me than having the comfort of the Oregon forest and the Oregon people. This is like, no, you are literally just you and all of the creepiest stuff imaginable. Let's get it. It's just, ooh,
Okay.
you know?
So I love how you're talking about it, but I also want to push back a little bit because
That's
feel
my
like
version. That's my version. That's what I'd like.
well, but I think you're talking about a best case scenario though, where you are somebody who values social connection very, very dearly and seriously.
Yeah. And
So,
that's why I become friends with the aliens.
all right, but I feel like friendship is a two-way street,
Yeah, it
and
is.
they
They
will
love me.
want to. That's a big assumption. You don't know that.
They'd love me even if it's for selfish motives.
All right. I guess that may be true.
Yeah, maybe they need some like samples. I'm willing. No fight.
Hold on. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate that you are trying to talk this through seriously.
Hold
And
on.
it is it's good for the sake of discussion. But come on. Like the actual feeling of not having people that you could interact with regularly, is that really better than a Gravity Falls where you do have townspeople to meet and talk to? Like I think you would grow insane with the lack of interaction.
Yeah, but you'd be committed to the insanity. And I really do mean that I would try to find community with the creepier stuff going on. You know what I mean? Like,
Wow,
I that is really what because you're right, there are no people, and I would want to find it somewhere. I am very social. And social natural me is like, man, I want to talk to somebody. Let's see if I can contact that alien again. He's my best option right now.
All right, I mean, listen,
You know?
in this world it's possible. Yes.
Yeah. Well, and we do
In
see
nowhere.
occasionally some of the creatures that we see are very non-threatening. Actually, one of my favorite episodes of Courage the Cowardly Dog is a two-part episode. I don't know if you remember this one, but it focuses around Courage helping this character named Kitty. Do you remember this?
I do.
And it's not really that scary. It's about this person, Kitty, they're wearing a creepy human mask when we first meet them. But spoiler, and actually do skip this if you don't want to be spoiled, because I think this is one of the best written episodes. We find out that they're kind of a humanoid cat, which is also why, like, that's already kind of creepy in itself. And at first the humanoid cat seems to, they stay with Eustace and Muriel, and they are kind of a bad influence, and Courage is very wary. Also the dog cat thing going on, right?
Yeah.
Well, it turns out Kitty is there because they got thrown out by like sort of an abusive situation in their home with their friend, their bunny humanoid character friend. And there are these like Rottweiler humanoid dogs that are really bad dudes. Not like evil, creepy monsters, but like just a normal bad guy that is just, I don't want to get too into it again because I don't want to spoil
Right,
stuff. And also it's a little triggering.
Sure.
But they cover this topic so well. And it really is just Courage ends up going to help them in their life situation. And we find out that Kitty and this rabbit character are actually really cool people. And they're just in a bad situation and they need help getting out. So it's not even the situation where everywhere is super scary and hostile to you. There actually are benevolent characters you can meet and become friends with, in different circumstances.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic point. And it is a mark in favor of this place. Can we take a step back for a second? Because you are operating under the best case scenario of you get to be a researcher here.
Yeah.
Can we just talk about isolation? Like,
like
I
if
know
you
that
just
we
lived
don't-
there as people in a town.
Yeah, like
or
I know
without
that
the
we
town.
don't want this, but let's say we are in the situation of a Eustace, Muriel, or Courage.
Sure.
It doesn't even matter which one. Where maybe we have a couple people in our family, maybe.
Maybe,
And it's just this very tiny house in the middle of what is nowhere, which is, again, that's why it's called that.
Yeah.
What kind of toll does that take on you? We see different versions where Courage, he's just there for his owners. He's a loyal dog. Specifically for Muriel, who's just a nice, sweet, oblivious lady.
Lovely. Sweet as all hell.
And then there's Eustace, who's just kind of like a grumpy guy. We don't see any of them in the show, other than maybe Courage, because he's so privy to the mysterious stuff that's happening.
Yeah.
But we don't see them especially, like, feeling lonely, which I think is interesting. And it may just be that wasn't the kind of theme that the creators were going for, but
Totally.
I feel like you would be so very lonely in a situation like this, even with one or two other people.
Well, so here's the thing, right? They do have each other at the end of the day. And that is something. That is notable. And I think that what might happen to you might shockingly look like what the characters that we see on screen. You develop an extremely simplistic perspective on life that's very day to day and very, like Muriel. Like I'm just happy. I make cookies for my husband. He doesn't even care that much, but you know what? We're a family and that's all that matters. And that cuz that's all they got, you know? And I love my dog and I love my husband and I'm delighted whenever someone like Freaky Fred shows up. Oh, hey Freaky Fred, welcome. Come on in. You're
Here to
prob
cut my hair.
Yeah, you're just going to cut my hair. If you haven't seen this show, I promise you that is so much scarier of a premise than you have any idea. Um, but I really think that they are believable characters for that scenario. I think for me, for my upbringing, and for how social and city acclimated I am, that would be hard for me. But if you're somebody who's more used to it, I think that that's something that you could find simplicity in. Or
Used to sit.
or you'll end up more like Eustace, where you oh, that was a dumb joke. Or you'll end up more like Eustace, where you end up kind of frustrated all the time, for no reason. You're just angry, you're pissed at life. You became a curmudgeon-y old man. And you're the get off my lawn kind of old man. You know what I mean? You've almost buried yourself in being defensive for this lifestyle. And anything that shakes your comfort zones of just reading your newspaper and watching TV is the height of getting pissed off, you know? And I think that's also that's the more of the danger of what can happen. I would bet that Eustace is kind of actually depressed. But it's funny because we do see that those are usually the archetypes we see those characters interact in. But we do sometimes see moments where Eustace and Muriel really have a loving connection with each other, and they are really happy together. It's not focused on as often, but it does happen. And those moments are genuine and sweet, and you feel for them. And you're happy that Courage is protecting them for that reason, too.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good point. And Courage has love too, which is all a dog
Yeah.
wants, at least from one of the two.
Yeah, exactly. At least from one of the two. Yeah, I mean, poor Courage with Eustace, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But human beings are extremely adaptable. That's something that I think is true by nature in a lot of cases. And maybe the adaptations will not necessarily be the healthiest thing for your life, but I think you would adapt still.
Yeah, I think that that's a good point. There is a difference between isolation in a small group versus pure isolation.
Yeah.
Which
Is maddening.
historically, yeah, we have seen people really just lose their minds.
Yeah.
In solitary confinement, things like that.
Exactly. I mean, I think that's one of the pinnacles of human torture, and I wish that it was never used intentionally. I think it's messed up.
Yeah, but it's interesting because presumably Muriel, Eustace, and Courage, well, not Courage, he's a dog, but Muriel and Eustace are living here by choice.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, totally. They could move.
Yeah, I've known people who they want to live in a big old ranch in Montana.
Yeah.
Where they're around almost nobody. They can go to the store, but
Yeah.
they feel very comfortable in that isolated home,
Yeah.
however big.
I think a lot of people genuinely do live lives like that, especially in Middle America, like this is kind of portrayed to be about.
Yeah, there is a part of me that gets the appeal.
Yeah.
We've talked about the appeal of like rural life. And I get that for sure. Like I get the pride of a small town.
Yeah.
The type of thing where you see the one famous person in your town goes on American Idol and the entire town puts on a parade and you know everybody.
Yeah.
And
well, so that to me is more Gravity Falls level, right?
yeah.
But now that you mention it, I was talking about thought experiment of me just being alone out here and losing my mind for funsies. But if I had like a wife or husband that I was there with, that'd be even better.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Just live a very simple, peaceful life, totally in love, and also maybe getting probed by aliens every once in a while. Maybe it's kinky, who knows?
Oh my god, let's hope not.
Let's just each their own.
All right. So I feel like the isolationist, even if you have like that one partner with you, that is different than rural living. I don't
really
think that
is.
we've talked about this.
Yeah.
And it's harder for me to see the appeal of this than it is the small town thing. Because I like the idea of the one restaurant that everybody goes to, the one bar where they meet up and they say, "Hey, Fred, Freaky Fred. Hey, there you are."
See,
Um,
but it's the small town people that pissed me off, which is why I wouldn't want to be in Gravity Falls.
Sure. And that is a very appropriate part of the equation because there is certainly something to be said for that. But all I'm saying is, with that, I get it. I
Yeah,
get why people decide I gravitate toward this kind of living.
yeah, yeah,
Gravitating toward isolationism, like, I don't, no matter how much you love the person you're with, and God knows, like, I am as happy as I could possibly be with my amazing wife.
yeah.
Um, it's still like the idea of us just being together with very little communication with the outside world.
Oh
I
yeah.
feel like it's hard to not go crazy, like no matter what the situation is.
Totally. And I mean, we talked before this. I'm like one of the happiest I've been in my life right now. Happy, like the video, if that's a cool thing. But part of that is, and I am living alone, and I'm single for the first time in a long time, and I'm very like loving all of those things in my life. However, I also have a very thriving community that I'm very involved in with like circus arts and fire spinning and stuff. And part of why I'm so happy, and I have you and other family nearby, and I do see my friends and talk to my friends and family literally every day. And realistically, I don't know where I would be without that, because that's one of the reasons why I am where I am today. You know what I mean? I credit it completely to my friends and family around me. So it is a fun thought experiment, but I'll give you that. Realistically, it probably would be harder for me. And when I say I'm committing to kind of losing my mind a little bit, that part is very true. I would be like committing to like, all right, let's become a nut job scientist and talk to aliens for the rest of my life. And I think that is what that would look like for me, you know?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I find this more viable than Coraline was.
Oh yeah, 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 oh
Um,
yeah. Oh, screw the other mother's place. That's just straight up like terrifying prison. No way. I don't even want to research that.
sure, even the house and the spot that they live in, that felt gray. That felt drab.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, yeah,
That's the
yeah.
difference for
Yeah.
me. I don't get that here.
Yeah.
However,
Also Oregon, hilariously enough, since we're talking about Gravity Falls.
however, I am gonna say very firmly for myself, no, I would not live here, nor would I leave my current location, which I've lost track at exactly what it is.
I
Um,
forgot where you were too, to be
it's for me,
honest.
it's still Fantasia. I'm
Oh,
a
that's a
friend
good
of
one.
Mickey Mouse, going between the different
That's right.
colorful symphonic
Am
areas.
I still a fairy in Fantasia, or did I move? I forgot
You
to.
decided to go to X-Men last to help fight the good fight against the uh
Oh, yeah, that's
humans. Yeah.
right. Against the humans, I would.
Listen, I'm gonna be honest. Like, I am
Oh, it's
craving
because
a
it's
move.
because I was a teacher, and I love the idea of being a teacher. I got to get my PhD. Yeah, I love
That's
that
right.
idea. Yeah,
That's
I
right.
would be a teacher and help with the good fight and be politically active in my society. Yeah, that's
And I'm
pretty good.
guessing you would not leave for the Courage universe, or might you?
No, I wouldn't leave for it. I would not leave for it. As much as I wish I could say that I would, that's a nah, I couldn't leave. That's something that really is a passion of mine. I wish I could do that in this life. You know what I mean? I wish there was a school for gifted circus artists. I'm sure there is, but I'm sure it'd be very hard for me to make that my life trajectory right now. Um,
You would give it a try, though.
I would totally live in the current. I would absolutely play out this experiment,
Whoa.
100%.
Okay.
How
Look. I
could you
love it.
not, man? Like, I mean, there's the thing I like about it, because Courage, it is a normal world, right?
Mhm.
Humanity is typical, but this place has a bunch of weird stuff going on, and that's the fascinating thing for me. I mean, I think it's funny because I've been either a researcher, a traveler, or a teacher in almost every single reality that we've played through in this podcast so far.
Sure.
And the paranormal research, every time it comes up, I'm going to want to tackle it because I love the unknown and I love exploring the unknown. That's one reason why I love these conversations we have too, because we kind of are in a way. Even, this is an unknown territory, even thinking about wanting to live in these places. And
Yeah. I love exploring all of the different worlds, and every single one offers a slightly different conversation. Even if there are pieces that are similar, it's
totally.
never exactly the same.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, this world is totally different from the Scooby Doo one when we're looking at it like that. I mean, the part of the interesting element of it is that you're not traveling, is that you're confined to this insane place with all of these wild things going on. But that's what makes it special and unique and interesting, and why I couldn't help but want to at least give it a shot and live there for real and experience it for a while.
Yeah, I absolutely get it. I really
And
do.
we've seen alien abductions, so that's also on the table. And I'm sure I'm not alone in this. Leave some comments if you feel me on this. I fantasized about getting abducted by an alien in high school, for real. Like, I was like, oh, that would be sick. I would love to be like chosen as a human being to explore the cosmos with aliens and learn about their life and all that crazy stuff.
That's a lot of people's greatest fear.
But I know a lot of other people wish that would happen. I know. I've talked to other people who fantasized about this. Sci-fi kids, help me out. Please, please, please tell me I'm not the only person.
Wow. Okay. Well, listen. I have enjoyed this greatly. Again.
Yes.
Happy Halloween month, everybody.
Oh,
We're still
happy
on it.
Halloween one. This was a short one. We're only 35 minutes in right now.
Wow. Well, do you have anything else that you wanted to say about Courage the Cowardly Dog?
Let's see. We talked about the animation. We talked about obviously the location being really fascinating. Oh, there's one thing we didn't talk about. You could be a sentient, excessively intelligent animal. Because courage
That's
is like smarter than people.
Well, and the big villain of Courage, if there is one that recurs the most, is Cats, who is
That's
also
true. That's right.
kind of like that, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and obviously the other ones we talked about, Kitty and the dogs, and so but I like the idea. Courage plays by cartoon logic. Like, Courage will sometimes break the fourth wall and talk to literally in English speak to the audience. Like, and if that's not true, then my name isn't Sheila Bervovitz, and it's not.
That was a pretty decent Courage impression. I'm not gonna lie.
Thank you.
It was good.
So I didn't entertain that because I think I'd be more interested being a person, but I suppose we probably should say we could also choose to be one of the paranormal things that's going on in this world.
You're right. I think that is fair to say. Do any stick out to you as I would either want to be friends with this one, or I would want to be just like Freaky Fred?
I want to live in the insane home for barbers where Freaky Fred came from. No,
all he wants to do is cut hair. I don't know what everybody's problem is. It's true.
It's true. It's so unnaturally scary for how not scary of a premise it is.
Yeah.
I mentioned aliens a couple times. We do see these duck aliens. And I am curious about their lives and their society. I won't lie. They don't seem like particularly kind aliens. They seem rather harsh and mean. I wouldn't really go as far as to say like evil or anything like that, but antagonistic for sure. So, as much as I wouldn't want to be one of them, I think it's interesting to at least think like, access to any alien society is fascinating to some degree.
Yeah. I love birds. So,
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. And they're ducks. Yeah. And I mean, who knows what other kinds of things? I mean, clearly this world has a lot of options. So I'm sure we could insert ourselves as a Bigfoot or, a sand Loch Ness monster. Oh wait, there was a sand creature in one of them too.
I almost remember there being kind of a Bigfoot, but I could be imagining that.
No, there was a Bigfoot at some point. And I think they were nice. That's right. Remember, there's a scene where he gets in the probably offensive Fiesta stuff, and him and Courage dance together.
Oh wow. Okay, I don't remember that, but
I remember
maybe that's what I'm remembering. A couple of other very notable villains that were memorable to me: the Queen of the Black Puddle, who appears to be this seductress, but actually ends up being like a horrifying monster.
That one was creepy. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I also remember D. Lung, who is just like this teenager-looking guy who has his own level of creep factor going on.
I don't remember that one.
You remember he's got kind of like a notable like lip that sort of hangs down.
Oh, yeah. That's man. I mean, such great character designs that you can say that and it actually makes me remember the character. That's wild.
Guys like him were actually some of the ones that freaked me out the most because they had the appearance of being just a totally normal person. Actually, that's the reason Fred freaked me out as well.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it's such a simple premise, but just there's something off about this person that just makes you feel uneasy and not great.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, there was the character that was literally like gangster toes on a big disconnected foot.
that's just that's where the show went like far out for me.
Dude, what
I
were
don't
they
like the gross
smoking?
stuff.
I want some
I
of it.
And then there were like the Stitch sisters that were like they had two heads from the same body.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, there was the
Um,
puppet. There was the crocodile puppeteer that turned people into marionettes.
See, listen, people, if you've not seen this show and
Yeah.
you've got the stomach for it, by all
Totally.
means, check out some Courage the Cowardly Dog. Just listen to how wild all these
Yeah.
premises are.
Honestly, it's almost like Kids Twilight Zone. And Twilight Zone is one of my favorite. Is probably my favorite show of all time.
Yeah, it's a great point, and it holds up, I think,
Oh
really
yeah.
well.
Oh, totally, totally. And yeah, like I mean, the animation we talked about, even when it gets a little uncanny, it's so intentional that it still works. Totally.
Great for the Halloween season, too.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I still probably I don't remember any of the metaphysical characters being any that I would really want to live as or be with. I don't know. Maybe the Bigfoot, because the Bigfoot guy was pretty cool.
Yeah.
He was a
I
good
think
dancer.
your original instinct about what the best case scenario would be, I
Yeah.
do agree with.
Yeah,
Like,
I
if I was
stand by
forced
that.
to live here, I think being some kind of an investigator could be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Good
Um,
good to entertain the metaphysical lifestyle potentially though.
Yeah, I'm glad we didn't just shout out some of the cool villains and creatures from the series.
Totally.
Um,
Totally.
All right. Anything else, bro?
No, it's a short one, everybody. Thanks so much for watching. Support the channel. We were talking about potentially doing a shift to have a unique channel for the podcast and a unique one for Jester Bros. So if you're a fan of the YouTube channel, keep an eye out for that. That might be coming soon.
All right. I think that sounds great. And let us know in the comments if you would even step a toe into the land of nowhere and what other places you would like to see us visit in the future.
Oh, yeah. And let me know what your favorite or least favorite and scariest villains from the show were if you were a fan of it.
True.
All right.
All right. Thanks, everybody, and happy Halloween. Watch some Courage.
Yeah, peace. Get spooky.
In this life.